So we're going to start. So this, the subject of today's lesson is the transformation of curses into blessings. Now, that sounds like, okay, how much do I owe you? How much do you get for that? So, so the truth is that it is, it's not like a sooth saying thing. It's not like a guru thing. It's actually found in this week's Parsha, which is, that we have the Times, we have the New York Times, we have the LA Times, we have, all those Times, and we have also the real Times, with Times of the week. The Parsha of the week that we're in is really what's going on in the week, on the deepest level. There's all those Times things, all those editorials, they're all like, nobody's going to remember them, right? But at the end of the day, like what we have from this week is really what we live through. Is every single week we live through the Parsha of the week. So this week, the Parsha of the week is Billam. It talks about Billam. The name of the Parsha is Balak, which discusses one of the villains, pretty much. I mean, that's the only way to put him. He's a villain. He's actually the grandson of Lavan, Lavan the Arami that we discussed in the Haggadah, and that Yaakov had to contend with for 22 years, and this grandson Billam learned all of his tricks from Lavan, who apparently was actually much greater than him in black magic. And he learned all these the tricks of the trade from his grandfather. So he was the greatest magician of the day. So just a perspective of what's going on in the Parsha, and a little bit of information, background information on what's going on. So the Jewish people are advancing. They're traveling through the desert, and all the nations are hearing about this. They're hearing, they're getting the memo. They're getting the, they're getting the wire. The what do you call it? Well, I'm saying before text messages, we had those, we had those telegram messages, Well, the telegrams are basically, they're working in terms of, Morse code, right? It's going through, and we're, Jewish people are traveling through the desert, get the latest news, and now they've conquered, another nation, another nation, and everybody's freaking out because they're like, what's going to happen? Because basically, this is like some supernatural occurrence. It's out of the order of the, of nature, the way we're used to. And what do we do about this? So they've already, just to put this in perspective, they've already beaten Sichon and Og, which is those countries are pre-land of Israel. And they're in actually the Golan Heights and a little bit northeast of the Golan Heights is where Sichon is, and Og controlled the Golan Heights, right? And he was known as being this giant, and he had a kingdom of giants and whatnot. And they've defeated those two superpowers. So now Midian, Midian is south. So that would probably put them around Jordan, right? That would put them around Jordan, southeast, right, of the land of Israel. So that empire, the Midianite empire, is a little bit worried because their protector, the superpower that was protecting them, was Sichon. So they gave money to Sichon, this kingdom of Sichon, to be their ally, pretty much. And anybody that's messing with Midian is messing with Sichon. So they felt protected. They didn't have to invest their funds in military, building up their military. They're like, we've got Sichon. they're gonna do the job for us. We could just like advance ourselves and everything else, right? Hope to be the next superpower, pretty much. So now Sichon gets defeated. So Midian is, and the king of Midian, whose name was Balak, is extremely worried, and he doesn't know what to do about this, because now he doesn't have any military prowess. He doesn't have any deterrence to protect himself from any advancing countries, specifically the Jewish people, who are
presumably they would pass through.
Right. So exactly. So it's not necessarily true that the Jewish people wanted to conquer Midian. They actually didn't. Right. We know Jewish people are about, like the Maimonides said, when Jewish people go to war. We don't go out to war just to take over countries, kill the inhabitants, like the way warfare has been done for all these generations, right? Until, now, literally, what's going on around us in Syria and Lebanon, etc. So absolutely true, right? They didn't want Midian. They just wanted to go into the land of Israel, have the land of Israel, make it a spiritual base, and that's it. That was really the point of the conquest. However, the Midianites didn't know that, right? So they were still worried about the predictability of what could happen. So when you're looking at those statistics of what's going on, so all these countries have been taken over, and it's not going in their favor, right? Mathematically, it's not going in their favor. So they are basically saying, "Uh-oh, what do we do now? We got to use a different superpower." So superpower that we're going to use. So they basically figure out that we've got to use a different power over here. Which power are we going to use? So they figure Jewish people do things pretty supernatural, right? And I forget which prime minister said this. 1 second. He said that to live in Israel is not to believe that miracles are a possibility, but that miracles are a reality. Who said that? 1 second. Is it? I don't think it's Golda Meir. One of the prime ministers. Okay, but to live in Israel is not relying on miracles. That is not like it's miracles are if things don't happen right, we'll rely on a miracle. Miracles happen, right? And it's absolutely true, right? In the United States Army in West Point, actually they study warfare, and they cannot study Israeli warfare because they're like, 1967, right? 48, right? 73. All the wars of Israel are just like absolutely supernatural. So we can't,
At one point, I read Sharon's autobiography.
Yeah.
And he takes a lot of the credit.
He took a lot of. He was an ego. He passed away, so we're not supposed to say anything not nice about anybody that passed away. But it's a known thing. He liked to take credit, and he was he had a robust ego. Let's just put it that way. Hi, how are you? Good.
I'm looking for English Scottish and English. I know it's
Maybe
here,
there.
I don't know where it's been.
Maybe there. I'm just in the middle of a live class. Okay, Atzlacha.
I'm enjoying it.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, feel free. So, so the point is that according to nature, the Midianites are now thinking.
I actually did think, though, that they studied Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
They did, but they couldn't.
Operationalize it somehow.
Right. They couldn't take out practical results, implement those, those things that worked for Israelis in Israel in what's working for Americans. Because what's working there is just not going to work here. And it's just like this, this is like mathematically, seriously. This is like, it's been analyzed like, in many, many different like scientific spectrums. They're putting a lot of money into this. Warfare, I think, is the biggest, probably one of the biggest industries. What's that? It's the biggest, absolutely, and everything is. Yeah, and it's funding and funding everything. Oh, ¿cómo está?
Yeah, gracias.
Good. Yeah. Good. Same here. So warfare. Oil is poured into military spending, right? That's the whole battle right now. It's been going on for quite a while. Middle East, Republican power, the whole oil cartels that are essentially about like protecting that oil cartel and further actually making people rich within that cartel. So things that work for the U.S. cannot work for Israel. And the point is that now Midian was now exploring other options. So they couldn't go head to head with Israel on a strictly military level. They had to explore the spiritual side, right? So spiritually, they had to find a counter balance to the Israelite power, right? That was coming through, and that's exactly what they did. They found Billam, who was the greatest magician of the day, and Balak hires him to do the job. So the way the Zohar puts it is that Billam is the alter ego of Moses. So, we've got Darth Vader, right? We've got the Lahavdil. We've got those two powers, right? We've got Moses and we've got Billam, right? We've got the power of the dark side and we've got the power of holiness, of Kedusha. And that's literally the way the sages put it, the way the Zohar puts it, that the Jewish people receive the greatest prophet, right? And the prophet of the day is Moses, right? And the counter side of that is that the nations received the greatest prophet on their level, right? Which was Billam. And the reason for that is that Billam was actually meant to give inspiration to the nations, right? So the nations don't say like, hey, the Jewish people, you got Moses, but you didn't give us anybody. So the answer was like, yeah, we did give you. God could answer that. Yes, you did receive Billam, and with Billam, you could have reached a very high level if Billam would have been connected, and if his powers would have been directed to godliness and not to his own self, right? Aggregating his own greatness, right? And that's exactly what happened. So Balak hires Billam, and Billam is actually thrilled to be on the job. Like many of the villains throughout Jewish history, any opportunity to to curse or take a shot at or to bring down, anything just or anything great, I'm there, no problem. And that's what Billam does, So Balak hires him, and he says, whatever money you want, you've got the job, unlimited, you've got the bank. We're bankrolling this. Our country is bankrolling this. So you're bankrolling this, no problem. I'm in. But besides that, I'm in it out of my own volition. So the way that the sages put it is that once he was hired for the job, very interesting quote, says that hatred takes a person out of context. I mean, that's the loose translation of it. The literal translation is in Hebrew, "Sina mekalelet et ashura," that hatred takes a person out of the line, right? Why is this said? Because Billam now decides to actually get ready for the job on his own. So on his own, he goes out and he harnesses his donkey, right? He gets it all ready, although, he's an important person, so he should have had a certain servant or whatnot. Hey, how's it going? He should have had some sort of a servant doing the job, but he decides to do it on his own. So the explanation is, once again, the line, right, is that sinna, that hatred takes a person out of context, right? So basically, it's like this. Billam hates the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, so much that he's actually ready to say, and he could have afforded it. He could have afforded his valet driver, just to put it in our, perspective. Hey, valet, called him up, from his penthouse apartment, said, get my Maserati or whatever it is, Rolls Royce, get it out of the, the parking, and I'm ready to come down. That's really who Billam was. But he says, you know what? I'm going to go down. I was just hired to curse the nation of Israel. Forget about anybody. I don't want to waste any time. I don't even want to call anybody to do this. I want to go down, get my car, and just get going. Get the engine going and just, and go. And that's what he does. So the way the sages, the way the Talmudic sages put it, is that hatred takes a person out of their perspective. Huh?
In the cafeteria.
So hatred takes a person out of their. Sorry, what did I say before? It takes a person out of their. Mikalkel tutashura takes a person out of their. Literally, out of their direction, their line. That sure literally means line. Figuratively, it means out of their conviction, right? So okay, so Billam is ready for the job, and he is not just hired for the job; he's ready for the job, and once he reaches Midian, he's ready to go. He's ready to let his mouth loose, right? And let out whatever he's got to say, right? So the way the sages put it in the Talmud is that Billam had one eye. He was a pirate, pretty much. So he was one-eyed Billam. And this one-eyed Billam, and the reason for that is, why is he called one-eyed Billam? Because he basically looked where he wasn't supposed to look. So one of his eyes was dimmed because it kind of was so over illuminated by, and he wasn't supposed to go to that place of prophecy, right? So one-eyed Billam had, like we said before, had the highest powers of the nations. Right? So we've got Moses on the power of holiness, and we've got Billam on the side of impurity. And now Billam sees that the Jewish people have a moment that God has wrath over them. That there's a certain, not just a moment, but it's a it's not a second. It's like a hundredth of a second, perhaps, right? A pretty, like, just an exact, moment where God is like, just like, I'm fed up. It's kind of like the perfect dad or the perfect like husband or perfect wife or perfect, it's like everything is like, no matter what they're going through and they're, everything is like, they're building the house, they're, family life, the children, it's, everything is, the way it should be. But, but there's a place that they're a little bit like, they want to like scream out or something, right? So most humans do that and they let out, that moment, for more than a moment, depending who the person is. So it says that God has a certain moment with the Jewish people, that he's a little bit like, I did this and this and this and this, all these things for you. And, all these great things are happening, but you're still like a little bit, I don't know, like not appreciative of everything that I'm doing for you. So God wants to go, So that moment is basically 100th of a second, where Billam knew that was the opportune time. That if he could tap into that moment and say, God, curse, negativity, bring that negativity down on that moment. That's what he wanted. That's what he wanted. And he actually knew that moment. That's what the Chazal say, the sages say, that Billam knew the moment that God was angry at the Jewish people. God wanted to yell out. And at that moment, when somebody is like a little bit upset, and you tell them like, why don't you do this? Yeah, okay, I'll do that, because they're not even thinking, right? So you can't say that about God, but there is that moment of wrath. And Billam knew that moment. So Billam was waiting for that moment. Balak hired him for that purpose, right? And Billam was waiting for that moment. So the Talmud actually says that the entire time that Billam had his radars out for that moment, right? That exact moment to, neutralize and to like sink into that moment. God was not upset for that entire time, that there was no anger, that God kind of like held back his anger. So something unbelievable happened, right? So this same person, Billam, who wanted to curse the Jewish people, actually transformed the curses into blessings. And just to make this clear, we actually received the greatest blessings in the entire Torah, right? Even greater than the blessings of the forefathers, right? The mothers, Moses even, right? Even greater than that, right? Billam blesses the nation of Israel. His blessings are the greatest blessings in the entire Torah, right? And it actually reaches the blessings of the times of the Mashiach. And he prophesizes the times of the Mashiach. He prophesizes the times of, and one of the proofs that the Maimonides brings for Mashiach is those blessings of Billam. They're greater than the Birkas Yaakov.
The intention was a curse, though.
Okay, exactly. So that's what I want to like delve into right now, because the topic of the class is the transformation of curses into blessings. Okay. So how is this possible, right? So how is it possible to say that this person, Billam, wanted to curse the Jewish people? Now it turns out that he blessed us on the highest level. So it's a pretty deep concept to understand what is a blessing and what is a curse. So I want to like prelude that with a story of the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, whose name was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar, right? Rabbi Elazar, who would actually across from Rabbi Elazar, right? So you have to remember Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai actually sent Rabbi Elazar to receive blessings from some of his colleagues, rabbis' colleagues, who were, not so well known in the Talmud, but they were holy individuals. So Rabbi Elazar goes to these friends of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they start to curse, like hurl curses at Rabbi Elazar. They're hurling curses at this like young man who came to them for blessings, and Rabbi Elazar is like, what do you like? What do you want? What do you want from me? Pretty much, like I just came to say hi. Just giving regards. I didn't do anything. You're just saying, your donkey should die. This should happen to you, and that should happen. It's like, gosh, like And he does what he does, and he goes back to his father, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon asks him, so how was it? How are my friends doing? And he's like, your friends, you don't know what happened. It's just like they were cursing me. They were doing all the. So Rabbi Shimon was like, tell me what they said. And he said, he repeated what they said, like those words. And they weren't 4-letter words. They weren't bleeping words. Curses was like, this and that should happen to you. So Rabbi Shimon said, those are not blessings. Those are not curses. Those are blessings. Those are blessings. And that's what the Talmud says, right? It's a very kind of like, okay, well, what happened over there in the Talmud? They said all these things, but Rabbi Shimon said they're blessings, right? So it's explained, right, that the idea of this is that ultimately, and I'm just going to jump right into like the kind of like the meaning that I think that we could all take out of this is that, when we look at events and we look at things that happen in the world or to us as individuals, we sometimes cannot recognize that those events are actually for our greatest good. We look at things as like, this and this happened to me. Oh my God, like I can't take this. Like, why did this happen to me? Like it's just beyond understanding. And we fail to understand that those things that we think are curses are actually the greatest blessings that ever happened to us, right? And it's the same thing on a world level, on a greater level, right? Things that happen to us. Sorry. What's that?
It's not like I just smashed my phone and I got $2.
Okay, airplane mode. So, okay. So, yeah. So that is exactly what Rabbi Shimon said to Rabbi Elazar. You think that you went over there to my friends and they said all these negative things to you. The truth is that all those negative things that they said to you are actually blessings in disguise.
They were friends. Were they thinking that also?
Yes. Right?
So why would they just give blessings?
Oh, very good. Very good.
It's opposite day.
Very, excellent. Right? So it's not just opposite day. Okay? It's not, because opposite connotes that there's equal power in the other, in opposite, right? So you go to the mirror, it's just opposite, right? So it's not like that. The idea of darkness versus light. Okay, so we think that light is greater, right? Because for us, we appreciate light as being like, something that we enjoy, is something which is you know, we could perceive, we could feel, right? The idea of light is something that we have clarity on, but the idea of darkness is actually brought down in the writings of Kabbalistic writings. The idea of darkness is actually higher than light. The idea of darkness is actually the absence of light. And that means it actually comes from a higher source. So there's two ways of seeing this, two ways of understanding this, right? And this is actually a verse which is brought down in Kohelet, in Ecclesiastes, that King Solomon says. Ra'iti sheyesh yitro na'or min ha'choshech, that I saw that there's an advantage of light over darkness, right? So, I didn't finish that quote. Kimina chochma mina sichlus, just like wisdom from folly. That's a quote from Ecclesiastes. Ra'iti shesh chochma shesh yitro na'or min ha'choshech. That's a quote.
Just like wisdom from, sorry.
Yeah, just like wisdom from folly. Folly. Folly is like, you know, silliness, craziness, whatever you want to term it as. So the Zohar actually explains this idea. So it's like, what is King Solomon actually saying, which is so wise over here? Like I saw, you know, the advantage of like dark, you know, we've got light, you know, or wisdom is greater, just like light is from folly. You know, depending how you. Yeah, that's a plus. I saw there's an advantage of light from darkness, right? There's an advantage of light from darkness. No, light from darkness. I'm just going to explain that for in a second. So so the Zohar explains this idea as follows. That what is King Solomon saying? So wisdom is greater than folly, just like light from darkness. Like what's a great wisdom over there? So it explains that when you go into a dark room and you light a light, so now you appreciate that light. Why do you appreciate that light? So if this room is dark right now, we would appreciate this room, and we would actually, you know, right now we're not appreciating that we have those great light bulbs over here, right? If we just turned off those lights, we would be like, we would be in a different state of mind, right? And if we would light a candle, right, or a lighter, all of a sudden we'd be like that. That's why it's so special to light candles in a dark place, because you kind of like come out of yourself like, oh, you know, and people actually connect to each other in a different way, right? Because it's like, oh, it's dark, and now there's light. Now I appreciate you, you know, and I appreciate like what's going on over here, because, you know, I'm not supposed to see you, and now I do see you, so I appreciate you, right? Or I appreciate like what I see over here. Appreciate all those things, which we don't appreciate right now, right? Because we take it for granted that we have light. So the advantage of wisdom from folly, right, is like light from darkness. I said that a little the opposite. It should be wisdom from folly, like light from darkness. Right? That's the order. So the Zohar explains this idea as follows. Now this is kind of like a deep idea. The idea could be understood as follows: that there's in understanding something, that realization of understanding, like when we have an intellectual like moment that we like have an aha moment, that all of a sudden like we have light inside of our minds where we didn't have that before. Why do we appreciate that moment so much? As a teacher, with students. Why is it that the student appreciates that moment? And it's the greatest satisfaction for a teacher, and that's why we're in this field, right? When a student has an aha moment. They're like, okay, now I know. I'm not in for the money. I'm not in for the fame. I'm not in. Why?
It's like connection. It's the connection between teacher and student.
I don't think so. I wish it was the answer.
I'm just happy when someone understands something.
But why?
It's good to understand something.
Why is it good to understand something?
It's good to understand.
Why? Why? I mean, it's a very basic question. It's like, yeah, it's good to understand. Obviously, it's good to understand. Yeah, but why? So I'll tell you why. Okay. When a person is in a state of darkness, when their mind is in a state of non-understanding mode, right? When they are in a state of just like, I don't get it. Okay. And then they finally get it. So then it illuminates their entire mind. And so that one success that student has, right, in understanding that one concept could totally transform everything in their entire, academic career, and could spearhead, right, and could start everything else. It will totally make them into the greatest student ever, right? Why is that? Because they probably worked at it, right? Because without working at something, you don't have that aha moment or appreciate the aha moment. Because if you're brilliant, then you never really had to work for anything. And you're like, okay, I get that. I don't really appreciate it because it's always light. So I don't see the bookshelves. I don't see, the hat. I don't see anything of it because it's all like, just take it for granted. But when when I'm in a state of darkness and I non-understand and I yearn to understand, that yearning of understanding something, whatever it is, whatever subject we're talking about over here, when a person yearns to understand and finally understands it, so then they transform that state of darkness into momentary light. And now everything is worthwhile. Everything just like makes sense. Like all that hardship and difficulties and whatnot, challenges of coming to that state are now worthwhile. So you could speak to somebody else, another student who's way more brilliant than them. They'll say like, I got that when I was in 5th grade. Well, like, what are you talking about? Why are you so like excited about that? That's a terrible thing to say ever to anybody. That's a malik. That's like, cooling somebody's enthusiasm down. That person just got it. Let them have the moment and encourage them and, be happy for them for getting that. That's unbelievable, right? Why is it so unbelievable? Because they've worked so hard at it, because they've been in a state of darkness. So that idea of the darkness, being in a state of darkness, the only appreciation that we have for that moment is because we had that darkness. Whereas the brilliant person who had it when they were in 5th grade, right, they knew all about it. They don't give a DA, whatever, it's not a bad word, but they don't give anything about, about that concept. But that student that got it after many years of striving, of working for it, appreciates it and will never forget it. And that illumination is a greater illumination. And that's the illumination which comes from the darkness. And that's the idea of wisdom. Because wisdom is the appreciation of the concept. It's not, the availability of the concept, which, by the way, we have at any given moment. Any concept or anything that we want, we could just like easily, hey, how are you? Hashem. Wow. My wife is like,
I know.
she's back. She's back.
I just think that. Yeah.
You're like 2 years more mature.
I hope so.
This is my student.
Hi, everyone.
Once a student, always a student. Sorry, I'm gonna embarrass you like a parent. Like,
No, it's not.
so
I'm so happy that you did.
Baruch Hashem. So, found it? Okay, good answers. Only the best. Okay, so we're talking about the that appreciation of wisdom, right? So basically we have, this amazing devices. We live in a world of like device land, that any second we could just get all the devices, any answers that we want, right? But the appreciation of light from darkness is specifically because of the darkness, because you've strived for it, because you've yearned for it, because you're challenged. And that's the idea of light from darkness. So now, when we look at darkness, or when we look at non-understanding, we look at challenges, really this is what it's about. And, and in the Western world, like we're just very like weary of like, oh, challenges, like let's not like bring little like Johnny into like any level of challenges. No, Johnny, life is good. Like, life is very easy. Life is very challengeless, and don't worry about it. But then all of a sudden, like when he's a minute on his own, he's like, you didn't tell me about this. You didn't prepare me for anything over here. What am I supposed to do? I'm out on my own. Sorry, I'm just painting it in the most realistic way possible. And that's the idea of darkness. So darkness actually propels us to get the greatest light, to reach the greatest light. And that's the idea of Billam. So, and that's the answer to your question, right? Billam, why is Bilam's curses? Why could Billam bless us even more than Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are our forefathers? The mothers, Moses. Those amazing blessings, right, pale in the comparison of that challenge of Billam, because Billam represents this darkness, this place of like world of darkness that he wants to like curse the Jewish people. He wants to keep the Jewish people in a place of just negativity. And from that place is where comes out the greatest positive blessing possible. The whole blessing of Mashiach, right, comes from that place of Billam, right? We know about Mashiach. Daniel, right, in the book of Daniel, quotes Billam. The Maimonides, as I said, like quotes Billam. Everybody says Billam is the highest blessings possible. Why? So I'm just going to say one more thing. So there's two levels of seeing the light over darkness. One level is that darkness is just that the idea of darkness is that we have to get rid of it, right? So now light and being clear on something is light. Darkness is the uncertainty. It's the challenge, etc. Right? So when we reach clarity, we're saying that we were victorious over darkness. So that's one way of looking at it. A higher way of looking at it, the way the Lubavitcher Rebbe puts it, that actually darkness, the idea of darkness is higher than light itself. So it's not just that we're making room for light, and because of the darkness we have light. That's one way of looking at it. So the challenges let us appreciate what we've reached, and it's absolutely true on all levels, right? Every level of life that we could think of that is a true, right, concept, right? Anybody in business, right? They would not appreciate what they've become unless they had to like persevere and work through many tough times, right? And that's why they don't want to just give it over to their children and say, hey, kid, here's like, $500 million, make a good life for yourself. Like, life for yourself. They're gonna drive with their Maserati, their life into the ground and nose in, after being OD'd and whatever, many other issues, right? They would not appreciate that money, right? Because they didn't earn it. So the father appreciates the money because he's earned it. Right? That's on a very basic level. And for us as well, like anything about us, we don't appreciate it unless we earned it, right? So that's the first way of looking at it. Second way of looking at it, the Rebbe brings out, is that actually darkness, although we can't make sense of it, actually stems from a higher place. And that idea of darkness, it's okay. Yeah. that idea of darkness, right? Although it may seem, totally inexplicable and like unnecessary. What's the point of darkness? Why should there be darkness at all? Darkness actually represents a higher light, and it's a light that actually can't be absorbed by any finite modalities, right? Of bringing that level of blessings into this world. And the only way it's brought down is actually through darkness. And that may seem like very like obscure. Like, what are you talking about? Like, darkness? Well, why would anybody want that? So that's the blessings of Billam. The blessings of Billam actually come from that place. So there's two ways of looking at it. Once again, first way of looking at it is that without Bilam's ruthless, right, being that counter side of Moses, we wouldn't appreciate Moses, we wouldn't appreciate holiness, we wouldn't appreciate light. That's one way of looking at it. The different way of looking at it, or the higher way of looking at it, the way the Rebbe puts it, is that actually darkness stems from a higher place of light, and darkness in and of itself is even not meant for light to be absorbed, to be understood. In other words, just the darkness in and of itself is extremely powerful. So what does that mean? And like, how do we understand this, like on a realistic level, on an experiential level? So the Rebbe actually explains that this idea represents the idea of mesiras nefesh, of self-sacrifice. The idea of self-sacrifice, and self-sacrifice, we'll speak about that in a second, but that idea of self-sacrifice actually comes from a higher source, where a person actually goes beyond themselves, beyond even understanding clarity. So although everybody wants to understand clarity, clarity is like everybody, Vahi or, it says in the Torah, Vahi or. Everybody wants light. Everybody wants clarity in their lives. Why am I here? What am I doing this? What was this all for? Why did I have to go through that? I have to go through this, blah, 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 right? All those things, obviously, that's the greatest satisfaction that we have when we understand things that happened to us in the past that, it was all for our good. Yes. However, as much as we do understand, we do not understand, right, infinitely more, right? Infinitely, right? That more than we do understand, we do not understand, right? What really is going on in this whole charade, life, world, whatever's going on over here, right? And that power could either, that could either be insanity, first of all. It could be insanity, right? Person's like, I don't understand it. I don't get it, and just go into insanity, right? Completely. Which, I mean, there's a whole bunch of like Rabbi Nachman stories about how just people just, a king goes into, the whole world goes into insanity, and the king puts like a whole sign on his forehead, and it's like, before we go into insanity, at least we'll know that we go into insanity in that story. It's a very special story. So that's one way of looking at it. Or a different way of looking at it is the idea of self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is actually within the nature, within the fabric of the Jewish people, which is really why Billam could not curse the Jewish people, could not actually get us. Because that darkness is actually connected to the highest light, which is really beyond light, which is actually comparable to darkness. So that's the way the Rebbe put it. It's like it's higher than light. It's darkness, but darkness is higher, is the greatest light, right? So that idea of self-sacrifice is really represents the innate love that the Jewish people have for God. That love that the Jewish people have for God is something that is unbreakable, something which is like just can't be shattered by anything. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make intellectual sense. That light, that aha moment is just like not here right now. But at the same time, that Jew, right, still loves God, right? And there's been countless stories like that. I mean, I taught a course on Holocaust studies, and the whole like Torah approach, different halachic readings on that, and I don't want to go into the Holocaust really, because it's a very it's super intense, but I feel like sometimes we have to. We have to actually like just jump into that place of like what's going on, like why, and to realize that Jews still loved God, at all moments, at all times. Where's that love for God come from? So it comes from the fabric of the Jewish people. It comes from like the very like essence of who we are. That's our DNA. That's our programming. This computer has got like programming, whatever they put into it. So the programming of the Jew, that's the programming, that the hardware is just like, you shall love God. Anochi Hashem Elohecha. Lo yelech alon. The Ten Commandments are just like within the hardware of the Jewish people. Whatever they look like, whatever they they say that they believe in, whatever it looks like they believe in, whatever it is, that is who they are. So Billam is like, let me try to get them on this level, on that level. No. You can't touch the Jewish people, because the Jewish people are actually programmed in a place of darkness, which is actually higher than your darkness. And therefore that darkness actually was transformed into light, right? So blessings, right? Where do blessings come from? Blessings could come from or could descend down to a place that we realize that this person receives this blessing because of this and this and that. But these blessings of Billam are higher than the blessings of the forefathers, right? Of Moses, right? Of everybody else, because they stemmed from that place of darkness, of self-sacrifice, the essence of the Jewish people, which is really like the essence of our eternity, like perseverance as the Jewish people. It's a very powerful. It's probably one of the most powerful parshas of, it's a powerful part. But this parsha is an extremely messianic, right? Almost like transformational parsha, because it actually goes beyond like the confines what we perceive as good or bad. That it's really all good. It's really all good, and that's where we stem from. That's where we receive our greatest strength from that place of like, it's not just good on this level. I have this. Dog gets bone, boy gets whatever. It's good. You get like a hamburger, happy. You don't. It's just like Monday Night Football, happy. It's just like that basic, like, but when you take that same Monday Night Football hamburger or something else is in that hamburger, and you say like, relinquish, give up your Judaism, or say that you're not this, not. It's like, what? What are you talking about? I was born a Jew. I will die a Jew. I am this person. I am that. That is who I am in my deepest depths. That's my DNA. That's what Billam saw. And Billam was like, I'm transformed. The one that wanted to curse you, the villain, like the antithesis of Moses is like, no, it's just like, it's actually, that's the proof of it's all blessing, because there is no darkness in the world. There's just light, light on the highest level. So, bottom line, we want to see it. We want to see it. Hareinu Hashem chastecha. We want to see it, but that's the truth. And Tanya says that, in chapter 36, that 26, that taking out the sheath from the sun. Right now we have the sheath from the sun, but then we're going to have like the sun in and of itself. That, we think that darkness is bad and therefore we're unhappy. So the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that's a reason to say, don't be unhappy. Why do you want to be unhappy? Because you think that there's negativity, there's not, things which are not so good. It's only because you're not seeing things in the right way. Because because if you perceive things in the right way, when you had your like shades on, you had like your right glasses on, and you actually were able to like see properly. So then, right now you can't see because it's all like just like, it's like just a light. So then it's darkness. But if you're able to put on your sunglasses on, right? So then you're able to actually see that light or that darkness is actually the greatest light. And therefore a person should always be happy at all times. Chapter 26. What? Yeah, we're supposed to, according to Torah. According to Torah, because Torah actually takes into perspective every part, our humanness, exactly, that we have. In a time like that, we have the day of, and then we have the 7 days, the shiv, and then we have 30 days law, right? And then we have the time of the year and whatever it is. So that's a time of like of coming to sorts, which is according to Torah, and like the healthiness of that, right? But then it says also that a person like over begrudges or laments or whatever it is, that situation, so then that's not good. That's actually like a form of disbelief in God, and we shouldn't be in that. So anyway, so just coming back to the beginning of the class, we said that Billam kilkel et Ashura. That Billam, like we translated, like Billam took his donkey on his own, right? So instead of going with his from his penthouse, calling like the valet guy to get his Maserati out, so he went out and he got his own like donkey. So kilkel tashura, right? He did it because of the hatred of the Jewish people. That's why he did it, right? So the Rebbe actually explains that that's how we need to be as well. That's who we are, but that's how we need to be as well. Billam he had this hatred and like villains, like just like hate for no reason. And we look around us, and you see like in the news, it's like just awful. It's just like this, like beyond, explanation. And the majority of us, like we don't even want to any longer, like, or in the past wanted to look at in the news, right? But like those crazy things happen, and Billam kilkel et ashur. So his hatred was out of context, like totally out of control. Like that level of like inhumaneness, like that you see, like just like it's like things that just hello, are you like human? Like seriously, are you like human? Like are we in the same like race? It's just like it's unbelievable that humans would take other humans and take them in a cage and put them inside of water, like, and watch them and film them. What? They do all those crazy things. Yeah, it's good. It's good you're not even there. It's good. I try not to as well, but it's like what are you like? It's like like what is going on over here, right? In terms of like humanity, right? So Billam was kilkel tashur. He went like out of the line of like of being a human. So we need to be in the line, right? The opposite way, in terms of like that line of being like extra human, being extra like connected to goodness, to that idea of light, that idea of like goodness, that idea of like Mashiach, that idea of like ultimately it is going to be good. It is good on the highest level. That is like our like deepest thing that we need to be. And that's the greatest blessing. It's the greatest blessing. And from that place of inhumaneness comes the greatest transformation, because it's like that side and this side. So how do you get that side to transform themselves? Like that, like despicable, like, human, or like whatever you want to call that person at that time. And like transform them to be like, I can't believe I actually did it. I believe in like goodness. I believe in God. I believe in the oneness of everything. For that to happen, it's like we need to be also on the other side, like to just totally go the other way with our love for God, like selfless love for God. So that's the food for thought lesson of the day. Wow. 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 That's the highest blessings, mamish, the highest blessings of all of the entire Torah come from here. So because only from having the most the challenges, the hardest challenges, like on the one level, like once again just summarized, like on like having like the challenges, we could actually appreciate the growth that we've gone through. That's just like a very big, like, we don't appreciate where we're at. And I had this thought, and like this like I think everybody like would appreciate this. Like I think we actually don't appreciate the good things that we do. It's like that we do, yeah. That we have, or that we do. So like, yeah, I've done this and this, and like we don't even think about that. We just think about like the challenges or the bad or the negative or whatever it is. Like, whoa, do you realize that you've just done this and this? And if you saw yourself back like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it is, you're like, whoa, you just did this. Like that's amazing. I can't believe I just did that. That is unreal. Like I just, that is crazy. But like at this point, it's like everything is just like all like just like conglomerate of like just things that, you know. And we do so many good things, so many amazing things, right? You know, we don't have to be like say, oh, I have to be humble. I have to be like a person has to like realize that the good things that they do and appreciate the good things that they do, not for their own ego, but in order to propel them to go forward. So when we appreciate the good things that we do, it actually brings a person to a state of simcha, of joy. Because we're like, you know, if we realize like one day of like, you know, of a person like putting on tefillin, let's say, like, okay, I'm just saying, like, be like, well, the whole day I'm like done. I could just like stop right there in the beginning of the day. I would have been like, that's it. I did my part. The whole day I'm just like, good. I just did one amazing thing. Or I like helped somebody. I fed somebody. I don't know. Like I invited somebody into my house, or I just did something good. That is crazy. Are you serious? You just did that? That is unbelievable. But we're like, no, it's okay.
I feel like I'm just like speculating about like the reason why we sort of rush away the things we do in a day. That's what we do all the things quickly in a day and that. And second of all, the world is based on good, and the normal way that life should be is good. So it's just normal that you'll be doing those things. So the bad things, like, whoa.
Yeah, but you're in a state of darkness because you don't appreciate the goodness. In other words, once you appreciate the goodness, that's the light from the darkness. You know, if you're doing all those good things, you're basically doing them all in the dark. You're like, yeah, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. It's like all like not like illuminated, kind of like whoa, I just did that. Not that you have to be like crazy inspired, like in an external way, but like in a real way, like, or a simple way. And I'm saying for myself, like if we look around us, like there's like the world around us, or even just the world around me, it's fat. It's like if everybody would like appreciate like a little bit of what they did, they would be like flying. They'd be like just jumping off the ground into the sky. Like, whoa, this person just like learned 5 hours today, or 10 hours, whatever it is, put on to, you know, or whatever they did. It's like, shh, they're totally happy. It's like, it's just the things that we don't appreciate, even the good things that we do. We don't appreciate the light from the darkness. In other words, we're just in the state of dark. We're just like, okay, darkness, like, or I'm doing all those things because I know they're the right things that I need to do, right? But I'm not taking the time to like appreciate them. I'm not taking the time to say like, I actually did this amazing thing, not in an egotistic way again, right? But in a way of looking at like the good things, looking at the good things of others, but looking at the good things of ourselves as well. Finding those points of light that are like negative, exactly.
Why?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's a good question.
Because we're happy to wallow in the darkness. We're happy to wallow and to be like.
Well, because it's also about like the good things that we do, like infinite ramifications. We don't even. So it's like it's without our ego. We don't even know what's happening. You go give someone. We took the camp. You don't even know what you just did. You know, this person might become from all of a sudden, like, or 2 years down the line. But if you're focusing on, I can't believe that class was so bad, you're not opening your mind to like what Hashem wants to do with the good thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like you think you know everything. You think you know.
So it's about us and not Hashem.
Right, it becomes about us and our performance and our this, and we know the cause and we know instead of just letting Hashem do the work, because ultimately whatever we did was from Hashem anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a whole that's amazing. Thank you. You're listening? Yes. Thank you.
It's it's about us, because we're thinking, I had to like go out and do this and that and that, and I'm not realizing the infinite power of all that.
Beyond us.
And that's a very what do you call it? It's like an out there idea. It's not something which is very like, mathematical, that we could just like point out as, being like, this and this and that, right? But it's the idea of which is, it just goes beyond our potential. So, so that idea of basically just like appreciating the good things that we do is a major idea. It really is, like celebrating the good things that we do. And if like people around us would celebrate the good things that they do and not the negative things that they did as much, right? Then it would be an unbelievable world.
I'm kind of getting from what you said, honey, that we should celebrate when we fall on our face too, because it's a part of serving Hashem, and we don't know the big picture. We have no idea.
Yeah, but even then we should celebrate. Right. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Exactly what you're saying.
That's great.
Anyway,
That's great.
even
Yeah.
the bad things.
Yeah. So bottom line, we have to be b'simcha. We have to be joyous. It just comes down like, these like Hasidic Jews are just always joyous, just have to be joyous. Simcha, simcha, simcha. And that's the truth. It's like, it's really is, because we have to find the positive points. So that was like that one thing, and then the other thing is like the darkness, like seeing the darkness is, even though we don't understand what is the significance of all that, and why it happened, and but there's a greater light that is there, and that's the light of Mesiras Nefesh, which goes together with shlichus, goes together with handing out Shabbos candles or doing whatever else you're doing.
Saying that Billam, we weren't untouchable because we had the.
Yeah, that Mesiras Nefesh actually reached that place of darkness, which is untapped usually. It's like actually it's beyond light.
That's what made this curses.
That transformed that darkness into actually into light.
Meaning, like, if you dig deep enough, there's God inside, and like you can only curse someone that has like negativity.
If they're harboring on it, yeah. But if they believe really that they have that spark, that deepest spark from above, and that they could overcome darkness, so then the darkness doesn't have an effect over them. Then it's actually only light. So that's exactly where we have to like strengthen ourselves, and that's what the Rebbe says. Just like Billam had this like went against the shura, against the line of like hatred. So we have to come to a place of the opposite place of like love, of like Mesiras Nefesh. So the news around us is completely like negative. So we can't believe everything that's in the news and say like, okay, that's it. Like I'm just giving up. I'm just giving up on possibilities, on what will happen, etc. Right? We have to know that we have to go against that stream. That stream is going this way. That means we have the power to go the other way. We have the power to actually shed more light. We have the power to like, say more Tehillim, right? Or give more candles, or to give more flowers, or to or whatever it is, to light more goodness, onto the world, right? Even though we're like, why am I doing this? Yeah, well, why you're doing this is actually because that darkness is so powerful, right? We have to shed it with light. So yeah, so that's the deal. That's what we have to do.
Question.